Hi again. This video is to support what we're doing this week as far as our grammar goes. We're working on the verb gustar and verbs like gustar. This video is to support what we're doing on the tutorials that you're going to watch on the Super site, the tutorial that they have, but not to replace it. So I'm not going to go over all of the exact same information. I'm going to hit the main parts, but you need to watch that tutorial first. My focus is on getting you to look at some of the activities that you have to do this week and seeing if you can do them and what your answer would be, that kind of a thing. So just to support it. So anyway, let's take a look at some of what we're going to be working on this week. So like I said, we are working on, let's see here. There we go. We are working on the verb gustar and similar verbs. Remember that gustar is not like regular verbs where you've got your subject. If I say I like chocolate in English, I am the subject, liking is your verb, and chocolate is your object. In Spanish, even though it looks like it's in the same order, it's really flipped. You say me gusta el chocolate, and chocolate is your subject. That's why there's no yo. That's why there's a me instead of a yo, because I am acting as the indirect object. So that is one of the big things that you need to remember. They're going to talk about it in the tutorial, the difference between gusta and gustan, using gusta if your subject is plural, las películas, instead of gustan with los conciertos. Okay, so make sure that you watch that, and you can pause if you want to and look at these slides, but this is information that is from your book. So that's how gustar works. You've got me, te, because it's an indirect object, you've got me, te, le, nos, os in Spain, and les are going to be your indirect object pronouns that you are going to be using with gustar. So one of the points that I wanted to cover that they mention in the book is this concept, and you have an activity in that you're going to have to do that's like this, I think for the Zoom chat this week. So gustar is often used in the conditional. Conditional means I would. So if you say me gustaría, it's a way of saying I would like to do this. So that, and there's an activity where you have to say like that would bother me, that would fascinate me. So in all of them, the nice thing about the conditional is that it's a very, very easy verb tense to use. You leave gustar, you don't conjugate the AR, you don't change it at all, but you add ia or ian if what comes after it, if your subject is plural. So me gustaría un refresco con hielo, por favor. I would like a soda with ice, please. So you can use it in restaurants. It's just a nicer way of saying I would like something instead of saying I want something. So that is one of the points that I wanted to hit. The other thing I wanted to talk about is verbs like gustar. There's a whole list, and here's a list of verbs that work like gustar. It does the same thing. So you're not really saying, the boring one kind of works out. It sounds a lot like English. So if you're saying that class bores me, it's that same idea. Me aburre el francés. Me aburre la clase de ciencias. See, me aburren las ciencias. So it works like it goes in the same order, just like you did with gustar, but you're saying that whatever it is bores me. You use it the same thing with this to get along well. Some of these translate easier into English than others. The caer bien and the caer mal, it's not a very good direct translation. So if you say like, me caen bien tus primos, me caen bien tus primos, it's like, I get along well with them. The thing is that to translate that into English, it sounds like it's in the same order, and it's really not. So it doesn't work the same way as to the bored one. If you say science bores me, well, science is your subject in English as well. So that has a similar subject. But if you're saying I get along well with your cousins, it sounds like that's the same structure as in English. But really in Spanish, you're saying these people, it doesn't even translate right. These people fall well to me. It makes absolutely no sense if you literally translate it. So you have to get the idea, and you have to remember that whoever you get along with, they are your subject. Okay, so me caen bien tus primos is the subject. Okay, another one, doler. Okay, this one makes sense in English to say that like my feet hurt. Well, then in English as well, your feet are the subject. They're doing the hurting. So my feet are hurting me. However, one of the differences between Spanish and English is that when you talk about something hurting, like this example here, le duelen las rodillas. So her knees hurt, or it could be his knees hurt because we don't have extra context. In English, we would say her knees, just like we did here, or we'd say my head hurts, me duele la cabeza. In English, we'd say my head. In Spanish, they say the head, the knees. And so that's something that's different in Spanish than it is in English. It's not very common to put that possessive adjective with the body part. So you're really going to say the knees hurt her. The head hurts me. So you wouldn't say me duele mi cabeza. That sounds a little off in Spanish. You'd be understood, but it's one of those things that would definitely stand out because it's not something that a native speaker would do. So me duele la cabeza, le duelen las rodillas. Something else I wanted to highlight is this, that remember, because the person who is having the action done to them is an indirect object, you have to have an a with it. Just like when you say miro la televisión, televisión is your direct object. However, it's a thing, so there's no a there. But if I say miro a los chicos, I look at the kids, now our direct object is a person, so we have to have an a. So whenever your direct object or your indirect object is a person, you have to have an a. Usually it comes after the verb. So what's different with this, with gustar and these other verbs, is that it's the first thing that you see. So that makes it look a little different, okay? But remember that ella is not your subject. She is the indirect object. So a ella no le gusta bailar, pero a él sí. So the le is referring to the ella. So she doesn't like to dance. The important reason why we are putting a ella here is to explain who le is. So we're using this as a way of clarifying the information. If I just said no le gusta bailar without any kind of context around it, you wouldn't know who I was talking about. Well, who likes to dance? It could be he likes to dance, she likes to dance, the family likes to dance, the class likes to dance. So because there are all those different people that le can be, it's important to give it some context and put the person here. So a ella no le gusta bailar, pero a él sí. So he does. And we have a él here. We don't really need to say, repeat, pero a él no le gusta, or pero a él le gusta bailar. So it's not really necessary to repeat the he likes to dance. She doesn't like to dance, but he does. Okay. A Felipe le molesta ir de compras, shopping. So going shopping bothers him. And Felipe is clarifying that. So it's kind of again, that's a different structure than in English as well. In English, we would not say the word him and Felipe. We would use one or the other. But in Spanish, with this construction, you can get rid of the Felipe, but you can't get rid of the le. So if you already have some context, if we've been talking about Felipe, then we can leave his name out. And I could just say, we're talking about Felipe, and I could say le molesta ir de compras. He doesn't like to shop. Okay, but if I haven't given you any context and I just come up to you and I start talking, I say, oh, a Felipe le molesta ir de compras, I need to say a Felipe. And let's see here. And this one just is about faltar and quedar. This is in your book, so you can read this a little more thoroughly there. I do want to go over something from, let's see here. No, don't want to go over that. Okay, I want to talk about a couple of these activities and do kind of what I did last week, where we look at a couple of the things from the assignment that you have to do. Okay, so completar, this is one of them that you have to do. So, mira, Cesar, a mí, and we're using encantar, okay? So when you see the a mí, it's letting you know what your indirect object pronoun needs to be, right? So take a minute and pause this, type in your answer. All right, so hopefully that with the a mí, you included in me, and then we have to decide what to do with encantar. We have vivir contigo, and as you saw in the tutorial and what you read in your book, that if you have a verb that comes after this verb, you just leave it singular. So me encanta, okay? Mira, a mí me encanta vivir contigo. pero la verdad es que blank algunas cosas. Preocupar, to worry. Now here, I don't have an a me or a ti or an el. So what we have to do is, in these cases, you need to look at the context of the whole sentence. Here we're talking about, look, Caesar, I would love to go with you. And actually, this one would really be good. This one would be a really good one to say, I would love to go with you. So, well, I don't know if we'll see if that's a possible answer, but I would love to go with you. But the truth is that some things worry. And who's our subject or who's our object going to be? It's going to be me again. So, a mí me encantaría vivir contigo, pero la verdad es que some things worry me. So I want you to conjugate the verb and put in your indirect object pronoun. So hopefully you said me preocupan, and that it's preocupan because we have algunas cosas. So as you're going through these, make sure that on these activities that you're not just trying to plug in a verb without looking at the context. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. You need to pay attention to what's going on around it. They're not always going to give you the answer. Like here, they're telling you a mí, so you know that what you have to have here for your indirect object pronoun. Here, there is not one. So you need to look at the context and read what it says and figure out what it's talking about and decide, is he saying that I like this or I don't like this, or he likes this, or is it a we? So you need to look at the context on some of these, okay? So that was one I wanted to look at. Let's see here. Another one that I wanted to look at was this one. All right, so opiniones diferentes. All right, so completa la conversación entre Pablo y Raquel con la forma correcta de los verbos de la lista y los pronombres adecuados. En algunos casos, más de una respuesta es posible. No repitas los verbos. So you can only use each one of these verbs one time. But you really have a lot of leeway on how you're going to use them. On some of these, you could have 2 or 3, or I think even sometimes 4 possible answers, but there are a couple that it's a certain answer that they're going for. So like this one, ¿Cómo me estoy divirtiendo? See, so wow, I'm really having a good time. What a good time I'm having. Something, este grupo musical. Okay, so again, we're not given an a mí, a ti, a él, anything like that. So you need to look at what the context is of the whole sentence. Is he saying, is he talking about himself? Is he talking about somebody else? Okay, and in this case, we can assume I'm having a good time, something, this musical group, that he's talking about himself still. Okay, so based on that, what could you say if he's having a good time and you've got this musical group? Which one of these verbs, or which ones of these verbs could you use? So go ahead and pause it and figure out what indirect object pronoun and what verb you would use. All right, so hopefully you came up with may. All right, and then what are your choices when you've got this musical group and he's having a good time? Would you say that it bores me? Probably not. Me fascina? That's a good option. Fascinar can be to fascinate, but it can also be kind of like I love it. Disgustar, again, not a good option because he already said he's having a good time. Gustar, another good option. All right, hurting, they're not hurt. This hurting is like for body parts hurting you. Interesar, you could use. Encantar, good one, and bothering me, not. So we have several options that we could use. We can use fascinar, gustar, interesar, encantar. Sí, encantar. So then we just need to conjugate it. So me encanta, for example. And I'm using encanta because this is singular, right? We could have just as easily said me gusta, me fascina. See, so that's what you need to do in this activity is pay attention to what it's saying, look at the context. Here, obviously, we have a ti, so hopefully you could figure out that for your indirect object pronoun, you would use te. All right, so there's another a mí. But when it doesn't give you one, you need to read it and make sure that you understand the statement to know what it's talking about. So anyway, as I said, you can't repeat these, but it gives you but several of these you can use many different answers. All right, and there was one more that I wanted to go over. This one, opiniones. All right. This one, all right, so complete las respuestas de algunos turistas a las preguntas de la actividad anterior. So this one is going with some of the previous activities, tourists, okay, and their answers. So Raúl says, no, al contrario, es grande y divertida. La ciudad no me aburre ni un poquito. You know, the city is not boring to me at all. So Eugenia said, son hermosas, el estilo modernista, blank especialmente, okay? Don't get confused with this because it starts off with el estilo modernista. She's talking about liking. So what is pleasing to her? The modernist style. So this style is pleasing. So you're not using this as like an indirect object pronoun. She is the indirect object pronoun, and she is talking about herself. All right, so take a minute, and if you are talking about estilo modernista and you want to say, oh, I like that, I like this style, what would you put in it? So hopefully you would have said, right, me gusta, because estilo modernista is singular. This one with Esteban and Mariela, they're talking about la gente. One of the things that you can use is your cue that there's no a in front of this. So that means that la gente is your subject. It is not the object. Okay, so it's not like an a mí, a ti, a él, a nosotros. Okay, this is our subject. So where it's talking about gente and caer muy bien, it's saying get along well with people. Okay, and Esteban and Mariela are talking. All right, and we know that they're the ones that are talking because then here it says, nos tratan maravillosamente en todos lados. La gente aquí es muy cálida. They treat us marvelously or great everywhere. The people here, they're very warm. Okay, so here again, we're talking about, since Esteban and Mariela are talking, they're saying, we get along well with the people. All right, so you need to conjugate it for that and put in your indirect object pronoun for that. So anyway, hopefully that helps you a little bit. Again, make sure that you watch the tutorial video. That's the most important thing for you to watch. And until next time.